The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte has ordered a probe into the alleged red tagging of Maginhawa Community Pantry organizer Ana Patricia Non. The mayor reached out to Non after the organizer aired safety concerns, which led her to temporarily close the pantry yesterday. Belmonte assured Non that the city government is fully supportive of the community pantry initiative, and Non earlier decided to resume operations of the community pantry, which saw its first visitors lining up before the break of dawn. Non also said she gained confidence to reopen the pantry after realizing that her efforts were met by the public with a lot more support than skepticism. On the other hand, the NTF-ELCAC believes there's an underlying agenda behind the emergence of various community pantries in the country. That is despite spokesperson Antonio Parlade denying that they are red-tagging organizers of these social projects. Speaking with the chiefs, Parlade said they are skeptical with how fast community pantries popped up all over the country.
We already know how the CPP works. Okay, I'll start there. And I'm not saying na lahat itong nag-organize nitong community pantry are part of that organization, but very, yung deception nila, yung mga pamamaraan nila ay alam na natin eh. Tiningnan natin kung mayroong connection itong mga nagsusulputan na ito sa buong Pilipinas. Kasi like I said, 14 nagsimula yan, April 14. In a matter of days, like 16, 17, 18, napakadami na buong Pilipinas. At iisa ang team. Parang nakapackage.
Despite his statement, Parlade insists that they are not red-tagging the organizers of these community pantries. He also said that the government is simply vigilant against efforts to destabilize the country during this time of great need.
We found out that there's a lot of these community pantries nationwide. I think mga 30 na yung nakita namin. At wala namang problema yung iba eh. So I think, itong sa Maginhawa ang nagkakaproblema dahil nga doon sa may mga propaganda pang kasama. So I think that's what the NTF-ELCAC is worrying about.
Before all the controversy, the Community Pantry Initiative was widely praised for its sheer cause of providing free food for struggling Filipinos in their local communities. How exactly did this start, and who is the person behind the idea? Let's find out in this report from Cherry Salazar.
It all started with an unguarded bamboo cart near an intersection at Maginhawa Street in Quezon City. Placed beside a lamppost and a tree, its only marker, a cardboard with the words Maginhawa Community Pantry. On it are fruits, vegetables, other food items, and a reminder. Kumuha ayon sa pangangailangan, magbigay batay sa kakayahan. Ana Patricia Non was behind this effort. Since day one, Patreng to her friends was clear about her objective, to temporarily stave off hunger, particularly of those who lost their jobs because of the pandemic. Non herself is no stranger to the economic impact of the pandemic. The 26-year-old runs a furniture business that suffered due to COVID-19 lockdowns.
And yung area po namin, sarado, kaya po nahirapan din po ako ituloy yung negosyo kung maliit. Hindi po matagal sa isip ko na paano kaya yung mga taong nakadepende yung livelihood po nila sa pang-araw-araw po na paglabas.
Even in her younger years, she's always had a heart for volunteer work. In her interview with Sa Totoo Lang, the fine arts graduate said she was a member of Youth for Christ, where she volunteered to teach in public schools. It's the same passion that allowed her to start the pantry for a meager amount.
Yung initial po na nagastos ko siguro po less than 1,000 or siguro po mga 800 lang po maximum. Kasi po yung iba po, ayuda din po dito.
Non's simple act of kindness eventually inspired other community pantries, initially from neighboring barangays, then across the country. To many, this generosity embodies the Filipinos' bayanihan spirit, filling the gaps in the government's pandemic response. But what was only a simple gesture to share one's blessings and help those in need has snowballed into many other issues, from ties with communism to politicking. diluting the original intention of these efforts, that with kindness, bring hope. Cherry Salazar, We Are One News.
Turns out community pantries aren't just for humans, but also for our furry friends. The Philippine Animal Society has put up a community pantry outside their office in Quezon City. This non-profit group is giving away free pet supplies for owners in need, especially for cat persons, as feline food can be difficult to procure. PAWS is urging those who wish to donate to reach out to them or to someone from their office. A similar initiative was also launched in Makati City, where animal food is not only available for pet owners, but also for stray animals to make sure every mouth is fed. This community pantry has a small area where stray cats and dogs can eat food and drink water, and those who wish to donate pet food and other pet supplies are encouraged to drop them off at 107 Kalayaan Avenue in Makati. Barkyanihan stations can also be found in other areas like Pasay, Mandaluyong, Manila, and Laguna. In other news, President Rodrigo Duterte is calling for the abolition of the kafala system in the Middle East. Duterte says the kafala system places migrant workers in the most vulnerable situations because it forces foreign workers to depend on their employers, which makes them prone to abuse. Under the system, migrant workers are required to have a sponsor in the host country so that a visa and a worker's permit can be issued.
We are all familiar with the very painful stories of abuse from inhumane working conditions to non-payment of wages, from restriction of movements to denial of health care, and from sexual exploitation to outright murder. For the Philippines and the Filipinos, these tales are realities that hit us hard. This has got to stop.
Critics are slamming rich countries for starting vaccination for their younger population, while developing nations have yet to inoculate their own frontliners. Why is this the case, and what protocols can we expect when first world countries have already fully vaccinated their entire population? Johns Hopkins Health Security Senior Scholar Dr. Amesh Adalia discusses this on Bloomberg.
The differential here seems to be the United Kingdom doing well, the United States doing well, and the news out of India and the Philippines is just absolutely grim. Should we get used to this new polarity?
Definitely. I think most of us were expecting this to be the case as different countries had different vaccine rollout timescales, and we've seen these more contagious variants take off in certain countries. And if you don't have a vaccine to basically stay ahead of them or to staunch their impact, you're going to go back to where you were, what we saw in the bad old days of winter or the spring. So many countries are not going to have this controlled well into 2022, and that's why you saw, for example, the State Department increasing to about 80% the number of countries where there's there's a travel advisory saying do not go to this country. That's going to be the case until vaccine is in place in those individual locations.
I look at those individual locations, and they can also be the United States. A couple good charts overnight of the glide path of younger people, including Dr. Adelja. I should mention Jonathan Farrell having his second shot here in the last 24 hours. It's rumored he survived. And, you know, I look at the good news coming on, and it's the younger people coming on as well. What is your timeline where 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds in America will get back to the virus success that we see in 60 and 70-year-olds?
I think it's likely to be in midsummer or so before enough of those 20 and 30-year-olds are vaccinated. Hopefully now, with everybody eligible, everybody signing up, getting a date to go get vaccinated, or some places you can just walk in. Here in Pittsburgh, there are many places where you can just walk in and get a shot, just like the flu vaccine. That's going to make it very easy and will likely continue to get more of this young group that's actually responsible for many of the cases that we're seeing right now vaccinated. And I think once we get to around maybe 40% of the population fully vaccinated based on Israel, I think we'll start to see a decline in cases the way they did. But we've already seen benefits in terms of hospitalization, as we've talked about before, because our older individuals who were taking up hospital beds, the ones who are most likely to have severe complications, and that's not happening so much anymore because how many of them have been vaccinated.
Dr. Adalja, what's the latest on transmission for people who have been vaccinated? In other words, whether they can actually pass the virus on to other people?
The data that we've accumulated so far shows this to be extremely rare. It doesn't mean zero, but it's extremely rare and something I think people could be comfortable with in terms of not having to worry about being a carrier of this virus. Certainly, if there's an outbreak, you're not going to be looking at the vaccinated people to say, were they the ones that actually spread this? It's going to take some time for public health guidance to catch up. That's why we still have pretty conservative guidance for what vaccinated people can safely do. But to me, I think in terms of risk tolerance, I'm not worried about vaccinated people spreading this virus. And I tell people to go back to their life as much as possible once they've been fully vaccinated.
Apple has rolled out the first redesign of its flagship desktop iMac in almost a decade, with prices starting at $1,299 or roughly 63,000 pesos. Emily Chang reports on Bloomberg.
You're looking at them right there, circular white and silver fobs that you can basically attach to any physical object and at, as you said, a pretty decent price, $29 a piece, four for $99. I mean, I need these, and badly, especially with a few children carrying my stuff around the house. The big development, though, over the last 15, 20 minutes have been the new computers and new iPads. So all of them built on the M1 chip, which is the Apple design chip that Apple has been working on for quite a long time. But this is a huge shift for Apple and the tech industry in general away from, for example, Intel chips that formerly would have gone into these devices. And what this means is that there can be more seamless integration between the new iMac, which you're seeing right here. It comes in a rainbow of colors, and the new iPad. They also just unveiled a new iPad Pro. Better camera resolution, better graphics, better battery life, all of these things coming together, meaning you can, for example, you could start an email on your phone and then continue that email on your computer. You can use iPhone and iPad apps on this new iMac. Matt, I know you said you like a physical device, a stationary device like this. And this could potentially really rejuvenate the Mac line, right? And, it depends on your habits, right? Are you taking a laptop to and from work? Are you carrying it around the house? Or do you always work in one place? And what Apple is doing is providing a family of devices that work for a lot of different use cases.
Sadly for Matt, the AirTag is too late to attach it to his Bitcoin wallet, which is lost in the ether. But Emily, these events for Apple are often a chance to reinvigorate. And every time you kind of think, what else can Apple do? Are they doing it? Is what you're seeing? I guess the M1 would be the main thing, right? That's sort of a new chapter for Apple.
Absolutely, and Tim Cook called it not an upgrade, but a breakthrough. I mean, I think it is a significant hardware and software and technological development that, some of us may not understand. We can only buy these devices now, but Apple has been working on this chip technology for a decade, and now you're finally seeing it come to life.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us again later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.